We covered this week. We had a really interesting chat with Jonathan Ailing from the Free Speech Union yesterday about the Rotorua Council's decision to stop or not to host a drag time story reading, and they seem to be all the rage around the world, drag time story readings at Rotorua Public Library on the grounds of health and safety. There was going to be a protest organised by, amongst others, Destiny Church's Brian Tamaki at the event, and it had been very controversial in the council, in the Rotorua Council. And one of those who stood against it, and I presume is, and he's just gone off for a walk, and I presume is celebrating this decision, was Councillor Robert Lee, who joins us through the wonders of modern technology, looking very, very good by video link. Now, Robert, Councillor, thank you very much indeed for coming on the platform. A very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you too, Sean. I'm a bit of a fan, so I'm delighted to be here.
All right. Now, look, I thought the chat yesterday with Jonathan Ailing was very, very interesting because he said he thought this decision and using health and safety was actually an assault on free speech, that it was a BS way to shut down something, even though he said personally he disagrees with these things. Would you agree that it's an unsatisfactory way for a council or for your aims to have been achieved?
Yeah, interesting question, Sean. Could I, first of all, my colleagues would like me to just clarify that I'm speaking as a councillor. I'm not speaking on behalf of my colleagues or the mayor or the council.
All right. Oh, yeah, okay, the disclaimer. In other words, you can say what you want.
Yeah, I think Jonathan raises a interesting question. I've seen the letter that he sent to the council requesting information about the basis of the council's decision to cancel it on the grounds of safety. And so I'll be interested to see what information the council based their decision on.
Yeah. Well, it should never have gone ahead, in my opinion, in the first place. Should it?
Well, I'd agree with you, and according to some research of a poll done last year, which is published on the facts.nz, 76% of New Zealanders think it shouldn't have gone ahead. So it's only 10% of people in New Zealand who support this kind of event.
Okay, can I ask you, who was the group that came and applied to hold the event? Who are they? Where are they from?
From what we were told at the council meeting, there's a group called Friends of the Library, which, as I understand it, are a group of volunteers who work closely with the library. I think they sell books that the library no longer wants, and that's a bit of a fundraiser for them.
Yeah.
I think there's one councillor who's on that committee, and I understand that they actually paid for the event to happen.
So the Friends of the Library group, because these are a couple of overseas trans people, aren't they? Is that right?
No.
These are locals.
You're talking about the drag queens themselves?
Yeah, the drag queens themselves. Well, no, I'm just trying to figure out how this works. How do a couple of drag queens have an event like this and all the publicity? What's the organisation that's touring them around the country?
So it's a privately owned company owned by one of the drag queens.
Oh.
And so the library manager made the decision, apparently, that...
So no, I'm still trying to figure this out, Robert. So what connection do they have with the Friends of the Library group?
No idea, other than we were told at the council meeting that that's where the funding for this event came from. So it wasn't paid for by ratepayer money, we were told.
Well, that's jolly good, isn't it? That's jolly good. Yep. And what was the point of having men dressed up as women reading in a library?
Yeah, well, it doesn't strike me as a parent as being great role models for my children, at least. Yeah. I think there are a lot of good reasons why I wouldn't take my children to the event, and obviously... But
it wasn't compulsory. Was it ticketed, or were they just going to plonk themselves down in the middle of the library and start reading stories in the hope that a few children might turn up or be there?
No, they took pre-registrations. So I actually registered for the event and was intending to attend. And then I'd be in a better position to say whether it is or isn't age appropriate.
Okay, so, but you didn't have a ticket. I mean, it strikes me a library is a public place. You just turn up if you want to go to the library. It's not like a concert or anything. So then the basic question is, should a council, and so it's not really a business enterprise if they're not making any money, it's just someone, a bloke dressed as a Sheila, turning up in a public space, reading stories and kind of suggesting it's for kids. It's bloody weird.
Yeah, so as I said before, it's a privately owned business. So I don't know how much the privately owned business, which is owned by one of the drag queens, received from Friends of the Library for running the event. But I also don't know whether the council charged any kind of fee for the use of the facilities.
It seems so weird. I mean, it doesn't even seem to me to be an event, Robert. It's just some guys dressed up as women turning up at a public library and reading. Why do they need any approval or anything? And the library can say, we're not into private companies turning up with men dressed as women and reading. Bugger off.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit surprised that this was a decision made by council staff. So, I often repeat Section 10 of the Local Government Act, which is the purpose of the Act, is to enable democratic local decision-making. And so in this particular case, we're not talking about an event that's business as usual. We're talking about an event that's controversial. They knew it was controversial. The librarian elevated it to her manager, and the manager was well prepared for answering my questions when I raised them at the council meeting. So I was wondering why council staff would take it upon themselves to make a decision that's as controversial as that. So I would have liked to have seen that decision made by the elected members and democratically accountable. So if the community don't like that decision, they'd have the opportunity of voting out those councillors at the next election, for example, if it's that important to them.
Is your council Rainbow Tick accredited, Robert?
I don't know. I think this issue has kind of demonstrated that our council is pretty, I suppose the word is woke. Can I read a paragraph from the letter, the email that was sent out cancelling the event from our council?
Go ahead.
It says, Rotorua Library is an inclusive and safe space that encourages understanding and tolerance in our community, and we have received a lot of positive feedback and support for the event. Unfortunately, not all our residents feel the same way, and we have become aware that protests have been organised that change the security profile of this event. Now, according to that research that I quoted earlier from Facts New Zealand, 76% of people are opposed to this kind of event happening. So there's like a misrepresentation about how much support this event actually has. And actually, if you ask the people in the community, it's not what the people want.
No. Look, even more fundamental than that, Robert, I love public libraries. I spent much of my life because my mother worked for the Rotorua City Council in the drafting department, and after school we were latchkey kids. So what we would do, we would go from about 3:45 every day, we would go and wait for Mum in the Rotorua Public Library, which was in the building she worked in, and we'd wait till 5 till she finished work. And I loved it. I read all sorts of books, all the Narnia books, Heinlein, Tolkien. That library was an absolute, huge part of my brothers and sisters' lives. And no blokes turned up like Sheila's turned up to read to us or read us stories. And isn't a library just a place where you keep information and books that's publicly available, and you go there and you be quiet and you mind your own business and you take books out and you read them? Is that what a library is to you?
Yeah, that's the traditional use of a library.
Okay.
These days, we have computers that have an internet connection available as well,
Awesome.
and people use that.
So when
we
did
have
a
chess club
library
that operates in there?
When did a library become a place for political activism and events that are all about proving how inclusive or woke the staff or anyone else is?
Well, yeah, the first I knew of it when I started being contacted by a lot of people in the community concerned about the event. So that's why I started asking these questions.